Okay, we're going to be talking about sonnets today. Who knows what a sonnet is? That's right, it's a 14-line poem where the first 12 lines follow the rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, and then the last 2 lines follow C, C. So let's move on, shall we? William Shakespeare. Who knows this sonnet right here? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Some of you have probably heard the first line. You can look right now. You can look at, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do flake the darling buds of May, and summer's leaf hath all too short a date. See how the first line and the third line rhyme, and the second line and the fourth line rhyme? It's going to go all the way down until the last 2 lines. They're going to rhyme with each other. Who knows who William Shakespeare is? Well, they're not exactly sure when he was born, but he was believed to have been about April 23rd because it was customary to be baptized 3 days after his birth, and they know that he was baptized at the Holy Trinity Church at Stratford-upon-Avon on April 26th in 1564, and that's the church that you can see on the right there. He was born during the bubonic plague, so he was lucky to be alive. His father was a glove maker, and he received a Latin education, which was classic education back then. He married Anne Hathaway, obviously not the same Anne Hathaway as the famous actress today. Rather than attending college, he decided to get married right away, and about 6 months after he was married, he had his first daughter. Who knows the story of Hamlet? But a lot of you don't know that Hamlet was named after his son Hamnet, and it was largely inspired the story of Hamlet. Shakespeare also had other children. On August 11th, 1596, Hamlet died at the age of 11 of an unknown cause. On June 5th, 1607, his daughter Susanna married Dr. John Hall. And in 1608, Shakespeare's first granddaughter, Elizabeth, was born. Shakespeare's daughter Judith, we didn't talk about her. She was up there. She had sort of a hard life regarding her husband, and she had difficult children, childbirth, etc. Shakespeare made 154 sonnets. That's a lot of sonnets. He was an actor. He was also a playwright. Like we said before, he was born and lived during the bubonic plague, so oftentimes his theaters were closed, which was rough, especially during Shakespeare's time. But luckily in 1599, the Globe Theatre was built. A lot of Shakespeare's plays were done in the Globe Theatre. Unfortunately, in 1613, 14 years later, the Globe Theatre burned to the ground in a fire. So let's talk back about what a sonnet is. A sonnet is a 14-line poem, and we didn't talk about this. It's in iambic pentameter. Who knows what iambic pentameter is? That's right, it's the rhythm and meter in which poets and playwrights wrote in Elizabethan England. Shakespeare often uses this. Let's look at an example right here. Sonnet 116. Let's look at the first line and the third line. Let me not to the marriage of true minds. And then let's skip a line and go, which alters when it alteration finds. So see how minds and finds rhymes there? And we've also got love and remove. There's a written rhyme, not necessarily translates to spoken rhyme in this day and age. Possibly it may have in Shakespeare's time. So let's talk about the heartbeat. When we talk about iambic pentameter, we talk about da-dum, 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 da-dum. Alright, let's read this line down here. Nor friend nor foe to me welcome you are. Thing past, redress, are now with me past care. You see how it mimics the heartbeat like that? Think about that whenever you're thinking about iambic pentameter. So let's look more about this. What is pentameter? It's a line of a verse consisting of 5 metrical feet. When I am is D-dum, it's the heartbeat. Penta is Greek for 5. We think of a pentagon. So meter is really the pattern. So pentameter. Put those two words together. You've got pentameter. Let's look at the example from Romeo and Juliet. We've got but soft, what light, through yonder wind, do breaks. So we've got that repetition. Da-dum, da-dum. Let's go back to sonnets and think about it. It's a poetic form, but it does have a certain structure. Like we were talking about before, the rhyming scheme. A, B, A, B. C, D, C, D. E, F, E, F, and then those two at the end, G, G. Let's talk about quatrains real quick. Quatrains are 4-line stanzas of any kind. So we're going to look at this sonnet in a minute, and I've divided the sonnet into quatrains for you. And then we're going to see the pattern also marked out. So here we've got an A, B rhyme, followed by a C, D rhyme, E, F, and then G, G down at the bottom. So we've got these 4 quatrains separated out for us here. So let's talk about it. What is a sonnet? What is iambic pentameter? What is the rhyming pattern of a Shakespearean sonnet? Can I get several hands? Let's have a discussion about this. Here we're going to do some group presentations. I've got a handout provided. And then we're going to group up. I've got a sign sheet that we're going to get into groups of 4 and we're going to present.